Hey guys, I think this is gonna be the last video for today, but I'd like to talk about something that was nagging me yesterday. So, I was having a discussion with somebody. I really shouldn't get into these, but I disengaged it very quickly because I realized what I was doing. But basically, on a website, somebody posted some link to another website, but the description of their post was something to the degree of like, religion is the epitome of all things evil and blah blah blah, and I was just like, all I said was, look, um, religion is not or could not be blamed for things that human beings do. Religion is an extension of the human being. It is an extension of what we yearn for. It is a search for meaning, and perhaps it is a discovery of meaning. But we can't demonize religion as if it had nothing to do with parts of human nature. If religions are violent, it's not because they in themselves are somehow inherently violent. It's people. It's human beings. And there's so many circumstances as to why or why not we're violent and what can bring out better tendencies for us. And we need to sort of stop thinking that religion is somehow this evil thing, this monster we've created for ourselves. I mean, so yeah, that's all I was saying, and I was like, so I'm just tired of hearing this sort of stuff, because it's the same way that religious fundamentalists demonize science. They say science is evil, science is that, evolution isn't real. Well, I mean, I mean, it's silly either way, really. I mean, it doesn't make much sense, you know, to go in either direction and demonize either side. I mean, come on now. But yeah, which led me to another thing that I was thinking of. It's a bit dramatic, it's a little intense, but a lot of the people who were responding to this statement, I said, you know, it's about human nature and bringing out the rational side of it, that we're spiritual as much as we are rational beings. We have the capacity for this. Let's explore it, not just demonize it, simply because it's different, and we're not directly familiar with it, so we judge it, we try to critique it, we try to break it apart, but perhaps that's the wrong approach to entirely do. We need something else to complement it, something more meaningful, something more understanding. So a lot of the replies are just reminded me of a character in Battlestar. He's one of the Cylons. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but basically it's a race of cyborgs, and they sort of made this character represent a the scientist, the rational aspect of humanity gone wrong. And in one of the scenes, he confronts one of his creators, saying like, why? And mind you, they look human. They can die. They're designed after humans. So he's like, why did you design me like this? Why did you give me this flesh and blood and make me so fragile? And he was saying stuff like, I want to see dark matter. I want to bathe in cosmic radiation. I want to be part of the universe. I want to see it objectively. Why are we shrouded behind this mask of this frail body and these he literally says these gelatinous eyes? He's basically saying, I want to be a perfect machine. Why did you make me like this, or this organic lump of flesh and blood that can die easily and can't see things directly and has emotions? He's like, I want this objective, pure, rational experience, and you've cursed me with this terrible condition of being human-like. And I thought it was a great philosophical dialogue, but besides the point, I feel like this almost embodies sort of a byproduct of focusing too heavily on our reason and our rationality. We lose sense of humanity to the point where we don't see any value in it anymore. Some people were telling me, like, look, religion is just our search for meaning without reason, and it's lesser form, and it's not important, and we need to focus more on our rational minds, because we can judge what's good or what's bad by how real it is in relation to the universe out there. How objective are we being? Let's try to become more and more objective. And then And so the first things that go out the window are spiritual experiences to these people, because they are as subjective as you can get. So it's sort of like an indirect byproduct has sort of been a hollowing out of any kind of interior value besides some kind of aesthetic notion of pleasure and experience. I mean, it's kind of it's dangerous, and it's not necessarily a balanced way to see the universe or ourselves. It's very lopsided, I feel, and yeah, I mean, this is basically the point I'm driving at. I mean, and the character in Battlestar is representing that to a great. The writer Ronald Moore is a great writer. He's actually done a lot of Star Trek movies too in the '90s, back in the day when Star Trek movies were pretty good, or at least classic. But yeah, Ronald Moore, he's good, and he brought up this very interesting point. This character is very I mean, he might appear cold-hearted, you know what I mean? He might appear... I'm not saying science makes you cold-hearted, but definitely it is one of the paths that you can take with science. You can be cold-hearted with many things, but this is definitely one way that people really kind of go down a dark path, you know what I mean? I mean, science is an illumination of the physical reality. It's divine in itself because of how intricate the universe is. It's beautiful. I mean, science can be a spiritual experience, seeing like the intricacy, the interconnection, I mean, just looking at evolution is awful, awful, like, not terrible, but awe-inspiring, I guess you could say. It's almost mind-boggling to think that, you know, reason was invented, you know, like, created by, I mean, the fact that evolution, even though it took a long time, was able to create the things it did without a reasoning mind is beautiful and quite humbling in and of itself. And the size of the cosmos, the vastness of where we are, and the potential of quantum physics, it's also beautiful. And you don't need to be so lopsided to one mode of thinking. I feel like the people who tend to be like that are often those who don't have any experience with spiritual experiences that on a profound level, and that's okay. Of course, they are what they are. They have experienced what they've experienced, but they take that judgment as saying, well, if I don't experience it, these people... There's no connection, there's no bridge, experiential bridge. We can talk about how we love each other, we can talk about how basic feelings, but not everybody experiences the spiritual to such a degree, which it seems normal, you know, we're all human, we have very different variations, very different tastes, and as experience goes, and dispositions, but we do have very similar dispositions, and that is to be rational, that is to be spiritual, to be feeling, loving, meaning-searching. There are different depths to it. Some can be explained away by entirely physical descriptions, whatever physical means anymore. But it doesn't necessarily mean that all spiritual experiences are devoid of real meaning. They're saying this is not real. How can it be meaningful if it has no... I mean, this is an interesting... I like this quote. This sort of epitomizes all of this. Your so-called meaningful life has no basis in reality, so how meaningful can it be? Humans have many mental potentials and limitations. Most of them are measured as a departure from our ability to correctly perceive reality. But what does that even mean, to correctly perceive reality? The correct way to perceive reality is always changing anyway. I mean, the way we perceive reality, even experientially, is an illusion. There's no such thing as objects, according to quantum physics. There's no such thing as objects. They collapse to a single point. It's an illusion. It's like a hologram we experience. So what does he mean? What do you know what I mean? Like, there requires a certain openness that many people seem not to want to do. But yeah, I guess that's something to think about. Thanks for listening, and make a response video if you want.